Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to this first Q&A clinic for XEVMPD service for 2026. My name is Caterina Scarpati, and I'm supporting in change management activities for this service and the sport services. And today with me, I have Veronica Baker and Marcos Fernandez Gomez, who are the XEVMPD experts at EMA and are here to answer live your questions on this service. So before we start with our Q&A, just a few housekeeping notes. Please note that this session is being recorded and it will be made available via the EMA corporate website on the event page and via EMA YouTube channel. In order to ask your questions, you will need to use the interaction tool Slido. The interaction via Slido is voluntary, and you may opt to remain anonymous. And if you choose this tool, you consent to the processing of your personal data. And for more information on how your data is processed when using Slido, please refer to the specific sections of the data protection notice. So just some housekeeping notes directly for the Q&A. So as I mentioned, you can ask your questions and give your input via the interaction tool Slido. And you can join Slido either by going at slido.com, adding the code XEVMPD1501, or you can just scan the QR code that you see on this slide. Once in Slido, you can type your question or upvote the questions that are already present and you want to hear answered. We will show the questions on the screen, and the EMA colleagues, Marcos and Veronica here, will answer live and verbally address the top voted questions. And just to recap also the scope of this Q&A. So as mentioned, this is a session that focuses on the questions regarding the XEVMPD service. So if you have questions on all other services like SMS, OMS, and RMS, or PMS, please join the dedicated live monthly Q&A sessions. And here, just as a recap, are all the 2026 Q&A clinics for the SOR series, PMS, and XEVMPD series. So this Tuesday, we held the first clinics of the year for SOR and PMS. So the next ones will take place on the 10th of February. SOR is in the morning and PMS is in the afternoon. All the event pages and registration links are already available on EMA website. Then also please keep track of the upcoming SPOR and XEVMPD quarterly status update webinars. The registration is already open for all the quarterly sessions for the whole 2026. The next section will be on the 28th of January. And just as a reminder, there we will announce the date for the go live of the new XEVMPD user interface. So stay tuned, and if you want to hear the announcement live, please join the session. Otherwise, of course, you will be able to consult both the presentation and recording a few days after the session. And before we dive into our Q&A, just as a last reminder, we have the customer satisfaction survey for SPOR and XEVMPD, which is still available. It was launched in October, and it will stay open for you to leave your feedback on your user experience on Slido until the 8th of March 2026. You can either access it via this QR code or join in at Slido with the code SPOR-survey. Otherwise, you can also access it directly via the SPOR page on EMA website. Okay, so without further ado, let's start with our questions. I have already a few in there. First, is there any documented guidance specifying which fields must be verified in the PMS user interface, or should we only verify the fields that are submitted through XEVMPD?
So actually, you can only review the ones that are submitted through XEVMPD because these are the only ones that are captured in PMS. And nevertheless, there is Chapter 7 of the EUIG. If you go at the bottom, there is an annex with a table saying which are the fields for which we have data. And obviously the data is the one coming from XEVMPD. So you can only review those fields with data. The rest of the fields will be empty. And the data is coming from XEVMPD.
Thank you. Next. Data visible in PMS user interface does not match with data visible in dynamic product reports or PMS API. Please clarify when will reports be aligned, as we're manually verifying the data in PMS product user interface, which is time consuming.
Well, I'd like to see some examples because I would not really agree with this statement. So in the PMS API, you sometimes can see additional information, but you need to understand what you are seeing because you can see, for example, nullified packages or nullified products that cannot be seen in the product UI or in the dynamic reports. So I would like to see some examples of these discrepancies. If you think the discrepancies are in between the product UI and the dynamic reports, you can open a ticket for the product UI team. Otherwise, you can open it for the PMS team, and we can review those discrepancies between the API and the UI. But it's yeah, I have not been aware of these discrepancies.
Okay, thank you. How often does EMA respond with third acknowledgement? We have noticed that communication had been rather quiet since November 2025.
So we let's say respond with a third acknowledgement, or marketing authorization holders are receiving a third acknowledgement whenever the validation team from EMA is validating a record. Either we include in this third acknowledgement the changes that we have done, or you just receive a third acknowledgement saying your EV code has been validated and there are no changes. We are still performing validation. As always, we tend to validate the inserts, all the inserts that you submit. For the updates, the approach is a bit different, and you might not receive a third acknowledgement for all the updates because we don't validate all the updates that you submit. So yeah, maybe you have not submitted new EV codes, maybe, and that's the reason why you are not receiving so many third acknowledgements. But we are still validating, and we validate like thousands of records every month. So
If
yeah,
I can
there's
maybe also
yeah.
clarify, so from the initial submission, so if you don't have your product in the XEVMPD and you submit it for the first time, you will be provided with a third acknowledgement, which is related to the validation within 2 weeks since the submission. However, this is in case that the product does not exist in the XEVMPD, so there's no product information. If you just submit a new record because of a new package, the third acknowledgement will not be coming within 2 weeks. We do have a slight change in the validation process, which I will be talking about during the webinar, which we have on the 28th of January. So you will receive it, but not within the first 2 weeks since the initial submission. Okay, and when you just update a product information, there is no defined timeline for when you will receive the third acknowledgement. We validate updated products as and when it's required to support the different business processes, or when it's been at least 2 years since the last validation. Thank you.
Thank you both. Next. So this is a popular one. Is there a timeline where XEVMPD will be retired? Will this be at the same time when IDMP reporting goes live, or will both reports run in parallel for a while?
Okay, so for the first question, as always, we don't have an answer yet. As we always explain, XEVMPD is feeding data to different internal and external systems. So we need to move all those consuming systems so they can start consuming data from PMS. So we need to define a strategy, we need to define a plan by when all these consuming systems will be moved. As soon as we have clear timelines, we will let you know. But for the moment, we don't know when this is going to happen. Now, we know a bit more about the strategy, and that was communicated last year in different forums. So the idea is that there will be a hard cut, which means that at a given date, XEVMPD submissions will stop working, and marketing authorization holders will have to start submitting products through PMS and the updates to the product data and everything directly to PMS. That was the announcement from last year. And again, we don't know yet when this is going to happen. So whenever we have more information, we will let you know. We know that we need to give you at least 6 months so you can be ready and prepare and get your systems ready. So just please bear with us. For the moment, XEVMPD is still live. You still need to comply with the XEVMPD and Article 57 rules. And we will let you know whenever XEVMPD submissions will be decommissioned.
Thank you. Next, for the new upgraded version of a current XEVMPD user interface, will industry be required to provide a new encryption certificate? Also, are there any changes anticipated for gateway submissions with the upgraded version?
So a very short answer is no. You will not need to provide a new encryption certificate. The new user interface only affects WebTrader users. So that means companies that actually use the user interface to submit and maintain data in XEVMPD. There is no effect of the user interface on gateway submission users. Thank you.
Thank you. So to the next one on updates on the new XEVMPD interface, I would say that all the updates will be provided on the webinar on the 28th of January, where, as mentioned, we will announce the exact date of the go live of the new XEVMPD interface. And from that moment, also the transition period will start, where both the current and the new interface will be available. But Veronica, please feel free to complement.
That is absolutely correct. What I can also recommend, if you haven't done so already, please go to the EMA Service Desk portal, where in the search panel you can actually find a dedicated article on the new user interface. So all you need to type in is new XEVMPD user interface or similar text, and you will get a knowledge-based article which provides some information that is already available with regards to the new user interface. Otherwise, I will be providing more info on the 28th. Thanks.
Thank you. Okay. Next one. I have more than 1,000 wrong codes for units, dose forms, languages, regulators in 349 PMS IDs with 749 EV codes. A dummy update in XEVMPD fixed some errors. Can you trigger a mass update?
So, okay, this is an example of, it's a good example that before sending updates to XEVMPD, you need to know if this will fix the issue. And you might think, okay, how am I gonna know this? So in the FAQ document for PMS, that you can find it in the PLM portal, we have the known issues list. In this known issue list, we have the bug on the regulators, for example. We have the bug on the languages. So you can send as many updates in XEVMPD as you want. The regulators will not be fixed. The languages will not be fixed. Because we know it's a known issue, but this has not been prioritized. The impact is so low. There's no impact on regulatory procedures and things like that, that we are prioritizing other bugs that we have. So these issues will not be fixed. Then for the authorize those form and the units, it's also important to know, okay, for which products and if the mapping is correct also between RMS and XEVMPD. I don't know if you have opened any ticket for this, but so it's important for you to know languages and regulators will not be fixed. Don't send updates to fix these products because it's not going to work. And for the rest, we might need to check. So maybe instead of 1,000, wrong codes. So I assume it's going to be maybe now 100 because regulators languages, this is out of scope. I would ask you to maybe open a ticket so we can review what is the issue.
Thank you. Next one. When a product is in process of EU marketing authorization review, but already authorized in a third country, and ICSRs from outside the EU must be submitted to the EMA as per GVPVI, how should the product be registered in XEVMPD? As an IMP, so investigational medicinal product, or a development medicinal product?
So you should register the product information as a DMP. And when the product becomes authorized, you will insert it in the XEVMPD as an AMP.
Thank you. Next, making a dummy update to fix the strength units may create a new PMS ID with different strength. Once all EV codes are updated, the extra PMS ID should disappear. Is this now robust such that I can do this for a couple of hundreds PMS ID?
So I don't know if I understand the second part. This once all EV codes are updated, the extra PMS ID should disappear. But the first part, like making an update to fix the strength unit, will not create a new PMS ID. This issue has been fixed, so as long as the EV code is still in this product and you don't change the strength in XEVMPD, you shouldn't, you will not see any issue. Now, maybe because you don't need to send an update to hundreds of PMS IDs or PMS IDs, sorry. You can send the update to one of the EV codes of the product. That would be enough to capture the units of measurement or units of presentation in PMS. You don't need to send it for all the EV codes. Only with one of the EV codes of the product is enough.
Okay, thank you. Next, in XEVMPD, the versions are tagged as valid or pending. Are these statuses transferred to PMS?
No. In PMS, we migrate all the versions. It doesn't matter if they are valid or pending, and we are not transfer this status. At some point, whenever we start validating and verifying the data in PMS, we might include some statuses on the products, etc. But for the moment, this is not the case.
Thank you. Next, status of an inactive MAH for one product shown in PMS and dynamic report. The last update for this product in XEVMPD was MAH address change. Validation for this XEVMPD update is still pending. Is this the reason why we still see the status as inactive?
No. So let me explain how does it work. So we have XEVMPD, right? And we have a product that is making reference to an organization in the MA holder field. And we have organization 123, which is you have the name of the company, the address, etc. This organization is going to be mapped to a location in OMS. So org 123 in XEVMPD is mapped to log 123 in XEVMPD. And this location might be inactive for whatever reason. That's OMS cuisine. We don't say anything. It's inactive. So in PMS, your product is linked to log ID 123 that is inactive. Now, you say, okay, there was a mistake in my MA holder in XEVMPD. I need to change the address, and you follow the process to change the address of this organization in XEVMPD. The fact that you are changing the address now should be taken by OMS, and the mapping should be moved to a new location that in principle, I assume, is the active one. So we need to make sure that OMS is taking now this new mapping, and you might check if you go to OMS and you check in the mapping field, if the change has been done, then we need to now send another update to XEVMPD so the system takes this new location. But you need to make sure that OMS has moved the mapping from the invalid location to the active location. That's the first step that you will need to check. Otherwise, you need to ask OMS to move this, and then sending another update to XEVMPD will trigger the change.
Okay, thank you. Next, we do still see previous EV codes for our products in PMS. When will the cleanup happen? Or will the code stay but with indicating if the code is current or previous?
Okay, so I don't know when have you checked this. So yesterday we finished, and we will be sending an email to all the users. We finished the data fix for transferred products. And some of the previous EV codes have been nullified because we identified them as previous EV code. So I would suggest you to have a look again. I don't know if you've checked today or not, because maybe your product was fixed yesterday or on Monday. If you still see the previous EV code, please open a ticket. We will review it because it should at least have the status not valid transferred, because the previous EV code has this status, should have the status of not valid transfer as submitted by the previous holder. So we can review it. But have a look, because we made a data fix for some thousand of products, and we finished with it yesterday.
Okay. Thank you. We opened a ticket in October last year and we still have no response at all. Just received a third level acknowledgement on XEVMPD saying EMA updated the version, but there are no changes.
I assume that's a ticket for PMS. So yeah, we have a backlog. If you have received maybe a ticket, a third acknowledgement in XEVMPD, is because maybe the team is checking the ticket and is doing some, maybe trying to fix the issue. So I would just ask you to bear with us while, we review the ticket. But I assume that if you have received this third acknowledgement, is because someone is working on it.
Thank you. Okay, we have a new question. Could you please give us a more or less approximate hint as to when XEVMPD will be decommissioned? Okay.
Yeah, well, I wish I had this information, but to be honest, I don't have it. I don't have it at all. So it's one of the objectives. So management, not only from EMA, but also the IT heads of the NCAs, they drafted a document with some of the objectives, etc. And the commission of XEMPD is one of the main objectives that we have. So it's not something that we are postponing or something that we don't want to do. It's for sure something that it's in our plans, but it's not easy. So the full pharmacovigilance system is based on the data from XEVMPD. So moving then pharmacovigilance fees and recoding, things like that. Then we need to migrate also the development product. So it's something that we need to really build. But again, I don't have an answer when this is going to happen, but we are working towards that.
Thank you, Marcos. Okay, next one. Did XEVMPD web undergo any changes recently? Any updates on this? So you're referring to the new user interface?
No.
So,
EVWeb is
sorry.
EVWeb is the current user interface.
Oh,
so
right. Okay.
as far as I know, there have not been any changes that would affect either gateway or WebTrader user. We are going to, however, introduce you to the new user interface, or it's not a new, it's an upgraded user interface that will be in use from basically Q1. So sometimes in the next 3 months, I will be providing information about the exact date and more specific information, as I mentioned before, on the 28th. If you have any specific updates to the current user interface, so to EVWeb in mind, please maybe include them in another question or comments, but it's very hard to guess which recent updates you might be referring to. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, so we expect not to find the previous EV code in the product user interface, right? Or the valid EV code will be followed by a pipe and after by the previous EV code.
Yeah, no. In the product UI, you shouldn't see the previous EV code. That in the API is different. That's why I said before that in some cases, what you see in the API is not the same what you see in the UI. But in the UI, you shouldn't see the previous EV code. And if you are seeing it, just open a ticket so we can review and check that the transfer has been done correctly in XEVMPD.
Thank you. Will the deadline provided for ULC, Union List of Critical Medicines enrichment for pack size or MBO be extended further, or will it remain the same?
So we extended it once. I regret to tell you that I think it's not going to be extended again. So the previous deadline was December 2025. We extended it now to end of June 2026, mid of this year. It's not going to be extended again.
Thank you for clarifying. Next, any chance to get a preview on this new review process for inserts for packages, which has been mentioned before? Would it help to add a comment which refers to the existing EV code?
I'm not entirely sure what you mean by comment to the existing EV code. So if you have a medicinal product which was recently approved as a new marketing authorization, you submit that product information in the XEVMPD as an AMP within 15 calendar days since the approval of the MA. That particular record will be validated by us within 2 weeks since the submission, and you will receive the third acknowledgement. If you submit a new package presentation related to this particular product. So we already have a product which has been validated, and now you're creating, I'm going to say, a copy of that product record just because you need to submit a new package description in that product record. We make our checks when we receive that particular insert, and we know that there is already a product which is for this, or there is already a product entry which is for that particular medicinal product, and that product entry has already been validated. If that product information is exactly the same, we do not need to validate it within the 2-week period. We can validate it with an extended timeline because we already have a product version or a product entry that is validated for that particular medicinal product. I'm not sure if that kind of clarifies, but if you already have a third acknowledgement for at least one medicinal product entry for a medicinal product that you are an MAH for, you do not need to expect to have a third level acknowledgement for every other package presentation that you send for that medicinal product. You will receive it, but not within the 2 weeks.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next, if we lose the previous EV code, why will still record it?
So we are not losing the previous EV code, first of all, because in the database we still have this EV code. The only problem is that it's a nullified package because it's not longer valid. So that's one thing. You still need to record it because the XEVMPD business rule and processes are still in place, and you need to include it. So first of all, in XEVMPD, we know this EV code is related to whatever previous EV code we have, and also because we use this previous EV code in PMS, like the information coming from XEVMPD, we use it in PMS not to create a new product when the product is transferred. So that's one of the principles of PMS. Even if the product is transferred, we shouldn't create a new medicinal product. It's still the same one, but we change maybe the name of the product and the marketing authorization holder, etc. So we need to have this information on the previous EV code. And again, it is not lost because behind in the database, we have this information.
Okay, thank you. Next, what will be the impact if an MAH is unable to complete the enrichment within the provided timeline?
Well, the main impact is that if there is a crisis and you need to provide the information, then you will need to do it. I mean, the ESMP and the shortages team will be contacting you, and you will have to provide information as soon as possible, I would say. That's the main one. I think we are not in a position to put any fine or anything to marketing authorization holders that are not able to provide this information on time, but this is something that is required, and I think there's a legislation for this, but that would be a question for ESMP, not for PMS.
Okay, thank you. Next, when do you assume the development medicinal products to be transferred to the PMS?
So I think this year we will be doing some analysis and design already because we need to start moving these products to PMS. Ideally, this would take less time because, I mean, the amount of data that we have for development products is less than the data model for authorized medicinal products. But I don't know if we will be able to have this finished this year or not. But the idea is to start at least making some design and analysis of this transfer process.
Thank you. Next, as XEVMPD users, we want to ask what approach shall we follow in terms of explaining or incorporating to our procedures the new draft user manual for the XEVMPD user interface.
So the current user interface will, within a certain period of time from the new user interface going live, be you will basically not have access to the EVWeb user interface anymore. It will be replaced by the new user interface. So the point of having the draft user manual published is to show you what the new user interface will look like, and that's the user interface that you will be using in future instead of the current EVWeb. So when we announce the go live for the new user interface, you will have minimum of 3 months where both user interfaces, so the current EVWeb and the new UI, the XEVMPD web, will work in parallel. So you will be able to work in any of those user interfaces. However, at some point, and I believe that in the published article we said that that there will be a minimum of 3 months where both of them will be working together. At some point, however, we will no longer, I don't want to say allow you, but we will restrict your access to the old user interface, so to EVWeb, and you will only be using the new user interface, which is the XEVMPD web. So for you, as a user, I would suggest that you review the draft user manual for the new user interface. And when the new user interface goes live, I would strongly recommend that you start using it as soon as possible so you become familiar with that user interface, because that is the user interface that you will be using until such time that the XEVMPD is decommissioned. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. For the newly added pack to an already submitted authorized medicinal product, will you consider which version of the authorized medicinal product was already validated? What if it is an old one which is validated?
I'm not entirely sure what you mean by version here. So if you had a product record which has been validated by us, and it was referenced in multiple pack sizes in the package description, that is already a validated record. What you should have done, or we presume you may have done, or what you might do if it's on the list of critical medicines, for example, is that you update that validated version, so only one package is referenced in that particular product, and then you insert new versions, so new records for the same product, where you will in each of the package description fields reference only one pack size. We already will have the original record, which previously referenced the multiple package presentations and now references one package presentation. So we will already have that one which is validated. And then we will have, for example, another 5 records for the same product where the only difference is in the package description. And that record will be validated at some point in the future.
Okay. Thank you. When an active substance is changed as per IDMP standards, for example, adding monohydrate, will it create a new record in EVWeb or will it supersede the existing record? What is EMA's recommendation on that?
I think I can take, because it's so. This part on will it create a new record in EVWeb? So actually what you are doing is updating an existing record in EVWeb by adding the monohydrate in the active substance field. So I would say the question is if it will create a new record in PMS. So the answer is yes. The active substance is one of the grouping elements in PMS. So any change to the active substance will create a new PMS ID. What we have said, and that's we have already explained this a couple of times, you don't need to change the data in XEVMPD if it's correct. Like if in the SMPC you still have the active substance without the monohydrate, if you want, you can keep it without this monohydrate. And then once XEVMPD is decommissioned, if you want to make changes, etc., that will be allowed. Now, if you want to make changes already to XEVMPD because you want to follow module 3, for example, and use the monohydrate, that is also possible. But just take into account that that will create a new product because that's a change on the active substance. And IDMP says, okay, new active substance means that's a new product. So yeah, take those things into consideration.
Okay, thank you. Next, when a different national approval date is received for Iceland, Norway after EC decision for a CAP, do we need to perform XEVMPD submission with this date? As there are no separate records for Iceland, Norway created in PMS, what's CMA recommendation?
So for PMS, we are not migrating the records for Iceland, Norway, and Liechtenstein. So you can submit whatever is needed in XEVMPD. These records will not be migrated to PMS. We just take whatever is in the European record. But still, in XEVMPD, you need to submit 4 times each package, as explained in chapter 3.2.
Thank you. Each authorized medicinal product has a version, either created by EV or by MAH. So on which version will you base the validation for a new pack added to an already submitted authorized medicinal product?
I think it's the latest one. So what Veronica was explaining, we are comparing the versions and we take the latest one to make sure that we have the product. This new EV code has already, it's part of an existing record.
Thank you. Next, and what happened if a previous EV code is correlated to a previous different full name?
Nothing. We just know that the new EV code is related to a previous EV code. The product names are different. That can happen when there is a transfer. And in PMS, we will have the new name if the transfer process is followed correctly. So yeah, no, there's no impact.
Thank you. Do we need to absolve the training for the new XEVMPD user interface?
No. What I would recommend is for you to review the published draft user manual for the new UI. As you can see from the screenshot of the document, the interface is very similar, has the same functionalities as the current one. So you should not need any training whatsoever to actually use the new user interface. That was the whole point of just upgrading the user interface. We didn't change it. So you would have to use different functionalities, etc. The interface is very similar and functions exactly the same way as the current, as the old, as I'm going to refer to it from now on, as the old user interface as EVWeb.
Thank you.
And I can see there was another question. Sorry, I'm just quickly looking at that as well.
What changes would it be for the XEVMPD export?
So the XEVMPD export, you are correct. It still runs on Internet Explorer. It is another tool together with the bulk update that we will be upgrading in the near future, so later this year. So it is also used within the user interface, and there is no need to connect to it using ActiveX or IETAP. So that is the next thing that we will be upgrading. So the bulk export and the bulk update. But for the time being, you will have to use the existing one from the active area. Thank you.
Yep. If we update lock IDs for our products, then will it also create a new PMS ID?
Not always. So only if the organization EV code from XEVMPD changes. Otherwise, it will not.
Okay. Thank you. What happens when someone with EV contributor role leaves the company? Can the MAH submit XEVMPD record without EV contributor role?
I'm not sure we're completely familiar with all the roles that users can have to submit medicinal products in the XEVMPD. Nevertheless, if one user, and it doesn't matter unless it's the QPPV, leaves the company, there should be other registered users that can be submitting the product information in the XEVMPD on behalf of the MAH. So if you have a QPPV or at least a trusted deputy, then any user registered under that company profile should be able to submit product information in XEVMPD. Thank you.
Thank you. Is any action required for MAH for previous EV codes shown in PMS? Will this be deleted by EMA?
So if you see this, please open a ticket. We will check.
Okay. And by the way, as usual, I've launched the feedback survey for this session, which you can find available on Slido. As usual, it's just a couple of questions, a rating question for you to let us know how useful was this session in answering your questions on XEVMPD, and an open text field where you can leave any further suggestions for improvements of this session or other engagement activities for XEVMPD. We read all your comments and we make sure to implement this in our next initiatives for engagement. So thank you very much in advance for answering this. But back to our Q&A. Next question. We have 2 clinical trials for the same active substance, but with different concentrations and strengths. Should this be uploaded, registered as 2 separate product entries, so 1 per concentration?
Yes, as 2 separate DMPs. I recommend that you review the information in, I believe it's process map 2 of the guidance documents for sponsors, where this is explained in some details. Thank you.
Thank you. So as a follow-up to the clarification on the new validation for the added pack, the point we are trying to understand is if EV will validate based on the last version of the authorized medicinal product, and this version is not validated, may be missed under correction, other correction.
So the new pack sizes are still validated according to the attachment that you attach. So the SMPC, for example, or the module 3. So we still perform the validation as per information in the document and as per the rules in place. However, we also compare it to the product information that's already available in the XEVMPD.
Maybe I can provide a bit more information here. Sorry. So the thing what Veronica explained is, with the new package, the submission of new package or the authorized packages that we require to support ESMP, we have received a big amount of EV codes, and some of those EV codes are for packages of products that already existed in XEVMPD. But we still receive new products that are authorized every day, every week, etc. So we have created a process that differentiates, okay, which are EV codes that are completely new, belong to products that are newly authorized, or EV codes that are pack sizes, like new pack sizes of products that were already in XEVMPD. So we can have a bit of a prioritization on which EV codes we need to validate first. But then, as Veronica said, validation of these added packages will follow the same approach. We will use the SMPC and we will validate against the documents that we receive.
Thank you. So, new question. Actually, a comment. It would be beneficial if there will be some test evaluation or mandatory training for XEVMPD, OMS, RMS, PMS users for improving data quality.
Well, I would expect different comments or reactions to if we made some mandatory trainings for XEVMPD, OMS, RMS, and PMS. So yeah, for the moment, we are not asking for any mandatory training. For example, for PMS, there is no mandatory training, for example, now to enrich product data, but it might be the case whenever we ask MA holders to start creating products in PMS. So the same way as we have it now in XEVMPD. But maybe other users would ask why we need to do mandatory trainings to use OMS, for example, or RMS. So it's always difficult to,
And if I can add, the mandatory training for XEVMPD is actually in place. At least one user from the company must receive training, because in order for you to register your MAH or sponsor organization in XEVMPD, you need to provide, as part of the documentation during the registration, the notification of successful completion of the XEVMPD training. And that means that at least one user has followed the training, whether it's the DIA organized training course or the e-learning training course, and therefore there is some knowledge about how the submissions should be done. And the person who has this notification should train others in the company as part of the knowledge transfer. So we do need to have at least one person that has got this notification.
Okay, thank you. Next, we do 4 submissions for European Union, Liechtenstein, Iceland, Norway, but when a different national approval is received for one country, we submit with different date as per current XEVMPD rules. How about taking PMS into account, as no separate records will be for Iceland, Norway, and Liechtenstein?
Yeah, so again, in XEVMPD, you still need to do these submissions. And if there's different dates and different data, you still need to submit that. In PMS, we will only migrate the data for the EU record. And that's all. You don't need to do anything else. Whenever we decommission XEVMPD and only the PMS record is available, then we will discuss what you do in case of these discrepancies on the dates. But most likely, you will need to capture only the EU data and the EU dates. But for the moment, again, if you have different approval dates, then in XEVMPD, you need different approval dates. In PMS, again, you will only have the data for the EU record, and there's no problem, no issue.
Thank you. We have a question. Are XEVMPD PMS data used in ICSR systems?
Yes, XEVMPD data is used to support ICSR recoding.
PMS for the moment is not.
Okay, thanks. Next, MAH wants to maintain only latest renewal date in section 9, and we are submitting both first and last renewal date. As per guidelines, if one date is specified, then that date will be considered as first authorization. What should we do?
I'm reading it again.
Same here. Because the first authorization and renewal date is one field. As per the business guidance, you should always enter the latest. So if it's, for example, a renewal, the latest renewal date in the in that particular field. So I'm wondering, where would you put both dates? Can you maybe clarify a little bit further?
Yeah, maybe meanwhile, let's answer the other question. I'll leave this one open so the user can comment. Please confirm if only the EU record with the EC decision will be migrated to PMS, even if a different initial approval date is received for Iceland, Norway, and Liechtenstein.
Yes, that's correct.
Okay. Thank you. Then, which PV systems other than ICSR use XEVMPD data?
So I don't have the full list here. I also don't know if it's a public list or not, but there are many systems. It's not only pharmacovigilance, so it's also for fees. Is, for example, PSURs are using
CTIS is a consuming system of XEVMPD
CTIS.
data.
Yeah, so we have many systems consuming from XEVMPD. Yeah.
Okay. Next, one of our products is registered as an MRP, and in line with the repeat use procedure, we added additional countries. How long do we have to submit the new countries' MAA numbers in XEVMPD?
So you have 15 days as always. So as soon as the products are authorized in the new countries of the repeat use, then you have 15 days to provide this information to XEVMPD.
Okay. Thank you. So we still have no clarification comment on this question.
I believe there is one. I don't know if it's the same, 355, submitted 355. So that seems to be a new one, Katrina.
No, this is the question we were reading earlier.
Okay, well, maybe I can still clarify. So
Okay.
if you have a first authorization that you insert your authorization date in the authorization / renewal date, and the authorization status will be valid. If there is a renewal, then you will insert the renewal date in the authorization / renewal date field, and you will change the marketing authorization status to valid renewed. So that way we know that the product entry references a renewal day as opposed to first authorization date. I don't know if this is what you're trying to get a clarification on. If not, please provide further information. Thanks.
Okay. Thank you. We have a really last one. So does the MAH need to take any actions when the MEDRA versions of indications are changed and received inferred acknowledgement?
I would say no. Like if it's only the MEDRA version, that I wouldn't. You don't need to do anything. It's just a normal update that is done to take the latest version of the MEDRA codes.
Okay. Okay, maybe we can quickly reply also to this one. Any audit or inspection for XEVMPD data from EMA is on focus?
I don't understand the question. Sorry.
However, I can confirm that national competent authorities do check XEVMPD data because, for example, you no longer need to submit type IN variations, so any changes to PSMFL and QPPV are checked by inspectors from the XEVMPD data that's available. So when they go and do an inspection in your company, they will check XEVMPD data.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, so our time is over for today. So thank you very much, Veronica and Marcos, for answering all questions. And for all of you, we just remind you that the next appointment for SPORE and XEVMPD services events is the SPORE and XEVMPD status update webinar taking place on the 28th of January. So if you want to join, please make sure to register via the event page on the EMA website. And there, as a reminder, we'll announce the official date for the launch of the new, of the upgraded, XEVMPD user interface. So thank you very much and have a nice rest of the day.